Hello, everyone, and welcome to my live weekly streaming about the Uno platform. We take a look at Uno related topics with either coding inside of the Uno platform and fixing bugs, or looking at additional and related features around the use of the Uno platform. So I've been developing an application for the past few weeks that's called the Uno SkiaSharp Fiddle, an application that does the conversion of some C# code inside of the browser into its executing code inside of the browser on the side here. So if I click the compile button, it takes that code and compiles it into something that can run inside of the browser. So it's been quite fun. The past few weeks, we've been able to add a few things like the Monaco editor, as you can see here. We've been able to add syntax coloring and validation. So when you compile this, then you get pop-ups that show the content here with errors that are coming from Roslyn directly. And lots of other things that make the experience a bit nicer to work with, like those bars that you can see here that are coming from the Windows Community Toolkit that allow for a good experience there. So we're going to be trying to take a look at what we can do with all this and make the experience nicer looking with all those features that we can add there. So I've been trying to do a few things, and namely, if you can see at the top, there's an URL here that is actually connected to my Visual Studio that you can see here. The point is for you to be able to see everything that I'm doing and browse the code as I'm using it. So you can try connecting to it and see what I'm doing. So if you have anything and any feedback around that, just let me know. I'm also trying a few other things like closed captioning. So you should be able to see if you're on I think either YouTube or Twitch, you should be having the closed captioning button that shows up at the bottom. So let me know if that helps you, especially if you're not a native English speaker as I am, and sometimes it gets a bit difficult to understand. So let me know, and if that helps you in any way. So there we are. So today we're going to be trying to do something around the use of the ability to deep link into the application. So the idea would be that when I'm in my application like this, if I have, let's say, sample one here, I would like to be able to do something like let's say I want to go to the sweep gradient here. I want to do something like slash, and I'm adding parameters to this, so it would be calling sample equal sweep gradient. So if I do this, the idea would be that I could go directly into the sweep gradient sample, and so that it would be automatically selected here. So there's one way to do this. And the Uno platform is actually providing this as part of the build, as part of the framework. So in your application, when you're in the app.xaml.cs, when you're in the unlaunched property here, the unlaunch method here, you should be able to see the launch activated event args. And thus, those ones are going to be giving you the parameters that are used when the application is launched. So what we could do here is during the navigation, the frame here, so we can see that there are the arguments that are provided here. And what we can do is go into the main page here and override the method that is used to navigate to that page and get the parameters of the URL that is being viewed here. So let's just do that. So if we are on the override here, we can see here the content the unnavigated to. So we're going to go to on the unnavigated to, and we're going to get the navigation args, and the navigation args, we're going to get the parameter object here. So that parameter is going to give us the access to access to the parameter that we passed at the top when navigating to this. So there's still that code lens feature that's still misbehaving. So still adding up something at the top. I hope at some point it's going to help. I'm just going to paste the URL if you want to click. It's going to be better as a click friendly. I think I have it here. So if people just want to make sure that they can show up and use the live share feature to see if it's actually useful in any way. There it is. Okay, so so what we're going to do is go and see what happens to end up in that page. So one other thing that we can try now is, because we're in parts of the navigation, I think I have one of the more recent versions of the Uno Bootstrapper, which should be enabling. So it has 2.1.45. So that one is providing a more recent version of the Bootstrapper. So it has debugging integrated, and it's been updated to include support for the boot parts of the application, so that we can connect to it properly and not have any issues. So to enable that, we have to have inspect URI here provided as part of the application. So this is, if the debugger doesn't start up for you, it's because inspect URI is not provided here. So when you have this and you're in the recent versions of the Bootstrapper, that means you should be able to just launch the application and put a breakpoint inside of the main page, for instance, and take a look at the content. So I'm just going to display the content of the parameters so that we can see it if the debugging doesn't work. It's something that Microsoft is still working on, so there may be dragons there. But they've been very responsive with regards to bugs that have been reported, so that's pretty good. I see that Mateos has joined. Hi, Mateos. So let's start the application and see if we can debug that properly. So with the changes that I made last week, with regards to removing the linker and removing the optimizations, that means that the build is now taking around 13 seconds to finish. Actually 16. It was 16 last time. So let's see. So the build is still running. It's finished now, so it's around 16 seconds. So it's not that bad. It gives a good idea when you don't have to wait too much for the application to start up. Okay, so the application is booting up properly, and now we can see if we have a, I didn't set the breakpoint. Let's see if it's going to work. I'm not sure. If it does not, we'll see it really quickly afterwards. We got the breakpoint set on navigate to. No, so probably set it in between. So that's one of the things that probably need to be reported to the app. Actually, Visual Studio froze, so maybe it's working. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, it broke. Okay, so it broke at the end. So that's pretty cool. So you can see that I have the breakpoint that hit. So a while back, that wasn't of the interesting things. A while back, the support for breaking into something that was happening at the beginning of the startup of the application wasn't breaking up on some of the breakpoints that you would set. So on that one, I don't know what it's doing really. That's probably something that needs to be updated on Microsoft's end. Let's start again. Oh, it's trying to download. It's trying to download source. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, well, we're gonna set that. It's probably trying to do something. Okay, so it's also debugging the host server. Okay, so that's not exactly what I want. Okay, so let's start again. So I have my breakpoint set. I'm going to start the application again, and then it should be breaking at that location, and we're going to see if we can observe the parameter that is available there. It should be available. If Visual Studio does not freeze too much. Okay. So there it is. And do I have my breakpoint? Doesn't look like it. There it is. Okay, so parameter, if I hover, that's one of the things that has been improved by the .NET team. So is it something that is starting to work? Maybe. And if it does not, we're going to go back to looking at the console write line. Okay, so no, it does not. Okay, so that's probably something that I'll be reporting to the .NET team because it doesn't work really well. Okay, so it may be something related to the startup of the application. So we can probably take a look at that when the application starts up again. Okay, so let's start the application without the debugger, and we can take a look at all this in the log. Okay, so this is probably something editor is not defined. Okay, so we can see here the parameter is empty. So if we start the application again with our sweep gradient parameter, we should be seeing this happening in the sweep gradient. So we can see here that, let me find that one out again. So param here contains sample equals sweep gradient. So that means that we can have multiple parameters there. It's pretty much everything that happens to be after the sample equals sweep gradient. So it gives you an idea about what needs to be navigated to. So let's do another one. Let's do run equals true, for instance. If we do that, then let's say run means that the application compiles the code and then runs. So if we go back a little bit and we take a look at that, so we can see sample equals sweep gradient, run equals true. So that's going to be that location. So what we want to be able to do at some point is just change this from sample equals and run or something like that, or remove the run completely, and have something that looks like that. So let's say just a slash. If I do this, in some cases, and it may happen on some servers, that URL is not going to be provided as part of the content. So if you take a look at the param here, it's not going to be provided. So what we can do, and we're going to take a look at that after we enable the navigating to that location, is to use and go take a look at that. I haven't taken a look at that yet, but I know it's possible. So take a look at the documentation for Azure Static Web Apps to transform this URL into something that the app understands. So being sample equals sweep gradient. So for now, we're going to be parsing this and take a look at what we have here. So we're just going to do some basic parsing for now. There's multiple ways to do this. And one of the things that we can do is use URI for that. So let's try to do that. So we're going to be doing something like, so there are parts of URI that allow to do some parsing so that you don't have to do the escaping and things like that, de-escaping and things like that. So we're going to do something like that. We're going to try to put a blank URL instead. I don't know why the Visual Studio is slowing up that much. I hope it's not because of live sharing. If it is, I may have to close it. We'll see. Actually, let's take a look at the CPU usage and see. No, it's not consuming that much. Oh, still 4 gigs of RAM. So I may have to restart it and set again and send again an URL to see if that helps. Yeah, it's pretty slow. Okay, so let me start that again, and I'll probably remove the tiny URL that's available here because it's not going to work pretty well. Okay, so I think I opened that one. And we're going to try that again. So I'm going to try the live share again. I'm going to paste the URL in the chat. I'm just going to remove this. It's not particularly useful. There we go. So still those that are happening up over there. Oh, the live share sessions is still running. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, that I didn't know. So if you're using live share, then it stays up if you're still there. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so let's go back here. So I have my example here, and I'm just gonna do something like looks like this, and I'm gonna paste the parameter here. It's gonna be the parameter, and so if this is true, and the output is going to be a URI. So if I remember correctly, there are some parts of URI that allows you to pick up the components of the URI so that you don't need to parse it by yourself. And we're going to take a look at that. Okay. So as part of the URI, there's so in here it says ambiguous for Monaco URI. Oh, okay, that's interesting. So Monaco is causing some trouble with parts of the UI that are not working. So I have to qualify it properly. And does not take 2 parameters. So what do I have to provide? A URI kind. Okay. URI kind, it has to be, what's an absolute one? There we go. And then in URI, there's probably a way to get the parameters there. Get components, path inquiry, segments, probably the components. So in components, there's a URI component. So that's not exactly the one I was looking for, but there's probably a way to get that differently. I thought there was a way to get all those individually. So parameter, that's the segments there. That's probably not the one that I'm looking for. Path inquiry. Now in the URI components, it gives us a few things with path inquiry, fragment, and others, but there's no way to split those one. I thought there was. Okay. So that's not going to help that much. It's probably just the nescape part of the path that's useful. Okay, so let's remove that one for now. I thought there was that part, but it's not there. I thought I was probably mixing it up with something that comes from Uno Core. Maybe there was a URI parser in Uno Core. Let's go take a look. I don't recall. I think I recall we did that from Uno Core. We had something allowed to split the components at the end of the URL. It's URI. Do I have something with URI here? URI extension. So we have something with URI extension. It's just the escaping of the string, so there's no splitting. Okay. I thought we had that, but anyway. So let's do it simply. Or maybe, I think maybe it could be in the community toolkit. Let's go take a look at the community toolkits. I think there was something that was used in the Windows community toolkit to do the parsing of the input. So maybe we can use that one instead. So let's take a look at the sample app. In the app.xaml.cs, I think there was something that was done to create the link link. There you go. Okay, deep link parser. So that one is interesting. So what does that one do? So do we have access to it? Maybe. I think it's available as part of the Uno deep link parser. Yes, we do have access to it, so no need to invent anything. Okay, so let's drop that. And we take the URI. So does it take a full URI or does it take something else? We have the ability to provide a Windows model activation. So it may be of interest, but instead let's go something like this. So we're going to go to the source, Windows Community Toolkit, and we're going to go to the deep link parser and see what that one does. So it does deep link parser, so it does a new on this. So it creates this. So it parse URI string, which is probably just below. So it validates source and URI. So it works on both. So we're going to try just create the URI directly without content there and see what that does. So it's pretty close to what we had already. We're going to be using example.com, and we're going to put just the parameters there. Link, and instead we're going to put the parameters that we had there. Okay, so we have the parameter, and then in the deep link we should be finding a few things. So deep link dot, and what's inside this? Nothing. We have the root, we have oh, it's a dictionary. Okay, so we can go get the dictionary. So we can do a try get value. And we want sample, which is supposed to be a string. And we're going to call that startup sample. Okay, so if it's there, we have that, and we should be able to go and navigate to that afterwards. So it would be the populate. So after the populate sample, so we should be able to set the selected sample after the populate sample. So populate sample is done during the main page. So it's done before the navigate to. So what we're going to do is just adjust the sample and select. Actually, we just need to set the selected sample here. So I think it's a two-way. Okay, so it's a two-way. We can do selected sample, and we need to find the sample that has the right name. So that would be samples dot first or default, and for which the name equals the startup sample name. Okay, so it says possible not referenced. So that may be true, and that is actually incorrect. So this might be nullable because it may be set back to null. So we're going to be doing something like that. And still, when we're selecting the first or default, we may want to, if it's null, we want to select the first sample instead. So we go to samples and first. Well, first or default, there's supposed to always be one, but if you remove, if you're manipulating everything and there's no sample here in the Skia samples, you may be missing one. So let's try that one. And we're going to be just moving this. Just going to be moving this here, saying parameter startup sample equals the parameter startup sample. So okay, so let's try that. Okay, so that's not working. So what's missing there? Non-nullable. I see there's an error in the generated code. Annotation. Okay, so that's something that we need to fix. So it looks like we're doing something that's incorrect with regards to generated code on the other side. So that would be something to look at for. So let's remove that one for now. Hey Macan, so what version of SkiaSharp? So actually, if you connect to the live sharing session that's available here, you should be able to see that when going to the project file that I've provided. Actually, if you have that the tiny URL here, that I pasted here. Maybe actually I could probably put it back because I think it was working. So let me add it back again. It's visible, transition, there it is. Okay, so yeah, there's a live share. So you should be able to see the version that I'm using for SkiaSharp. So there's no version here. So if I do this sample sweep gradient, do I have something selected? Yes, it is selected. So that's pretty nice. So now that means that if I take a look at the startup sample, and it did. Okay, so that's pretty cool. We've been able to use the deep link parser that's part of the Windows Community Toolkit to parse the navigated to URL that's available here. So I'm not too sure if we actually need to do this. So let's actually take that one out and see if that still works. I do not know. So let's build it again and see if that works. So I don't know if the URL is still the same for the live share. I hope it is, because it didn't ask for anything afterwards. So let me know, Macan, if you have something that works. Okay, so I have this, and does the sweep gradient work again? No, it doesn't. Okay, so I have to build the URL properly. Because it doesn't work otherwise. Okay, so maybe we do just that one with a question mark. Maybe just a question mark will do. So it's about the parser. It's when you take a look at the code that the Windows Community Toolkit is doing, it's doing a parsing with URI try create. So it may fail because the URL is not validated is not formatted properly. So that may be the case. So let's do this again and see if that works. Yes, okay, so you can just do a question mark, and it will, if you just do a question mark, then it will just do what's needed. So that means that it works properly. So that's pretty cool. So that's the thing. So that happens. So we've been able to parse the sweep gradient one here, so that it selects one. I'm actually pretty interested in the fact that this is not updating. There's probably a bug inside of the combo box because it's supposed to be selecting. The item here. So maybe it's not two-way. Let's see. If we take a look at the XAML here, so either it's a bug in Visual Studio in Uno, or it means that it's not updating properly, and it looks like it may not be updating properly because the two-way binding is set properly, so it may be something different. Okay, so I'm assuming you couldn't see the live share session. I'm gonna paste again the link and see if it's really this that's happening. So if you join that link, you should be able to see it. The live share session is here. Yeah, for some reason it's there are no participants, so it's just recent contacts. But okay, so we'll see. Maybe at some point it will start working again. It's a tryout, so maybe it's not working for some reason. Okay, so now we have so this is, there's actually a bug in the combo box, so this is probably something that we're gonna have to look at. But the origin of the test was to take a look at what's happening when we're going to GitHub and the Uno SkiaSharp Fiddle. So the application is being built. So you can see here that if you navigate to that URL, it's the application that's been published using the Azure Static Web Apps. So it's the same application running there. So what I want to be able to do is do a slash and let's say sample slash, and we're going to say it was a sweep gradient. So I want to see something like that. Sweep gradient. So I want to be able to do something like that. And the problem is that if you do this, when you're on Azure Static Web Apps, then this gets transformed into an actual path on the server. And this is not what we want. So, well, at least not in that location. So what we are going to do is try to rewrite the URL to get it to display something in the right way. So fortunately, there's something that's available as part of the Azure Static Web Apps that allows us to change this properly. So if we go take a look at the documentation. So if we go to this, Azure Static Apps, and we're going to search for rewrites. So there's a documentation about configuring Azure Static Web Apps. And there's specifically a part where they're defining routes. And there's a way to do some rewriting. So let's try to find those out. So there's a way to do that kind of things with a route and rewrite. So I'm going to try to find how we can rewrite this properly. So I'm not sure exactly how that works. So we're going to try to find that one out. So we get routes for profile, allowed roles, so authenticated, and CSS. Okay, so let's see how we can transform all this. So we have profile. So oh, that's another one that was published recently. So I don't know if that's going to work. There's a an Azure Static Apps local server. So I'm not sure how that works. So we're going to try to get that. Static Apps. Static Apps preview, key features. So there was a local way of testing things. Is there a way to see this? How to guides, tutorials. It was mentioned recently on Twitter, but I'm missing that one up. Okay. So maybe there's something else. Maybe Static Apps documentation. It's just documentation and monitoring static Azure. No, that's not that one. Okay, so that would be local server, maybe. Static Apps CLI. Okay, so that would be that one. So what does that one do? Serve as local development for Azure Static Web Apps. Well, that's pretty cool. SWA start. So that's an NPM. Okay, let's try this. So that means that we should be able to go to our location somewhere. So our application is built and it's, so I don't know what that means. I don't know, it's a read only. Okay, so you joined, but for some reason, okay, so that works. Okay, awesome. So let me know. Okay, yeah, it looks like you're both connected, so that's pretty cool. Okay, I can see that someone's here, so it's probably that's nice. Okay, so we're going to be adding. We're going to try to set up that thing here. So let's see. Do I have npm available there? It should be. No, it's not available. So there's multiple ways for doing this. Either I do it through Ubuntu. That would be one way to do it. And do I have npm installed? No, I don't have npm. So I could try to do that directly. I don't know if I may have to install it in some different way. Oh. Well, that's a lot of installation. Okay, so it may go faster. So in the meantime, we're going to take a look at the documentation so that we can configure properly the configuration file. So it would be a file here. So the file would be, what's the name of the file that we need to set? Okay, so route interface, there's a static files, static web app config.json. Okay, so we're going to put application workflow file. What's the workflow file? Okay, so that's the workflow file. Okay, so that would be at the root of the application. So what we're going to do is add that file into a Wower root. So we're going to make a folder here. Ooh, too many O's. Oh, I do have a folder. Yeah. Root. So that would be. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, I can't add the folder. Okay, so I need to add the file directly. I was supposed to be able to include that folder, but for some reason it's not letting me do it that way. So that file is supposed to be called static web app.config.json. And in that folder, in that file, we should be able to set. Oh, I need to do an update first. We're going to try to do that again. Okay, so that file should be having a few things there. So there were examples. We're going to take a look at the examples. So the configuration file should be having routes. So let's copy everything up. And we're going to put that in the SkiaSharp folder. Okay, so we have the routes, and we're going to remove. We're going to remove, so there's the API here. I'm going to change that one. Yeah, okay, let's try it that way and see what that does. There's a rewrite for fallback. So that we don't need. The response overrides we don't need. The global headers, not yet. And the MIME types for JSON, not needed as well. Okay, so let's keep it that way for now. So what we want to have is sample and the get and the allow roles for now, nothing. So we're just going to try it that way. So so that would be that. And did the installation finish? It did. Okay, so that was fast. Okay. So now we want to add the CLI that was mentioned here. So that would be installation that way. So we're going to go back to here. So lots of files to download, it looks like. Lots of packages. Missing write access. Okay, so I'm going to install it as the overall user, the super user. Okay, that worked. So now I should be able to do SWA start. And what does it say? Very nice. Okay, so it's serving my home directory. It's not particularly useful. Okay, so now that means that we can go into the folder of the application. So I have my file that I put here. So one of the other things that's interesting at with that file is that we can use, we can specify cache policies there. So that's something that we need to provide for the application, because when the application is updated, we don't want the index to be cached, but we want the rest of the files to be cached because they're not going to change and they're part of a folder that is not going to change. So if we look at the net5 folder here, this folder here, we can see here with the way it's structured, we have index.html, a few other files that are placed at the root, and a folder that's hashed here with a seed here, and well, sorry, with a not a unique identifier, but the hash of all the files that are in there. And the point of this is that every time you make a new build and you publish, every time and especially if you have a CDN, that folder is going to be still be available if if a new version of the app is available, and the last version of the app is still running. So what we're going to do is move to that folder in Ubuntu here. So we're going to do the WSL path, and we're in that folder. So if I do SWA start, where do I go? So if I go to this, I should be able to view my app. So it starts properly. So the file is, the application serves properly. So that's pretty nice. And now we're going to be seeing if, what do I do if I navigate to sample slash, I don't remember the name, Swift Gradients. So it does not work. Okay, so now we have to find the actual way to do the routing properly. So for the names of the files that we had there, there was another one that was provided here. So profile without roles. So there was calendar here for the rewrite. So it was, oh, maybe I didn't do the slash afterwards. So let's see. What did I put there? So I did put the slash, the get, it's a get. So do we have errors there? Do we have errors provided there? Oh, that's a lot of files. Let's see. So static app does the 404 for some other thing, but it's not providing the content there. So I'm not even sure the file is read somehow. So maybe it's something else. The file is supposed to be at the right location. So let's see. The file is there. It's called static-app.config.json. I got a service worker for something else, but for some reason it's not doing anything. So let's see. So in the configurations, we got the wildcards, we got the route for the header. So let's try to change this. Let's try to change the route and the headers. Actually, maybe it's not the right file. So we got two files. The documentation was talking about a file that was called routes.json. So let's call it routes.json instead for now. So if we go back here in Visual Studio, we're going to rename the file here directly. It's routes.json, I think it was. It was routes.json. Okay, routes.json. And we're going to start the application again. Oh, it was started again. Okay, so it's running on 4280. 4280. No, it's not doing anything. So if I do just sample, does it do something? No, it does not. Okay, so maybe the format is not the right one. So if I do sample and then star. Actually, we're going to change index.html and we're going to see if I put, I'm going to do index.html. I'm going to change that to put something else. I'm going to put a number that it can see. And we're going to refresh this and see if I get some more insight there. So nothing here. And if I update this, so the files are read properly. And if I take a look at the network, so I'm going to be refreshing this. So for those that are coming up, we're trying to take a look at the Azure static apps and configuration using the configuration files that are provided as part of the Azure static apps CLI. Well, actually, then we're testing through the Azure static app CLI, so static web apps here, and trying to understand how that works from the documentation to be able to add something at the top. So what I want to find out is that did my index.html response give me something that makes sense with the headers. So the response headers are max age 0, keep alive, and there's an e tag, but there's nothing that's coming up as per what I've provided here. So that routes.json, oh, it got over in, I was not modifying the right file. Yeah, that would help. Okay, so I'll try it again. Let's see. Do I have something better this time? Okay, still not giving me the right things. Still cache control, public. There's nothing that's of interest there. So maybe I can restart the app. Maybe that could be this. If I refresh again, do I have something different there? No, still nothing different. So max age is not what I was expecting. So it's I'm trying to get something that looks like this, but no, it's not there. Maybe. No, it's not. It's not giving me the right thing. So I do not know if it's supposed to be doing it that way. Let's go back to the documentation. Maybe we do something else. So the recommended location is static web apps config JSON in the folder set app location. That's something that I did already. File may be placed in the location within your application source code folder. Well, that's pretty wide. It's going to look for that file. So if routes.json is ignored, static web app config JSON exists. Okay. Few built-in roles which include anonymous and authenticated. So maybe I need to put authenticated somewhere because it was provided here. So maybe I need to add that. So maybe I'm not using the right thing. Let's see. There could be something that we can look here for debugging. Okay, so unsafe permissions are not what I want. API folder. Start. Configuration. Okay. There's app location. There's artifacts, API port, host, SSL, credentials, and reverse proxy. Okay. Not particularly useful. Yeah, the delay on yeah, it goes pretty fast in Visual Studio for some reason. You know, it's actually faster than I expected, and it shows when there's a difference between what Twitch is providing. I'm streaming at lowest latency as possible, but still it's not it's still slow. Okay, so it does not work. So maybe we can find something else. So I don't know, maybe I'm not using the right documentation for a configuration file. So we can take a look at that one. So we had routes here. The routes file folder is not the right one. So the configuration static, so okay. Distinct roles, not very useful. Okay, so that would be, so let's see. So we have overrides for a few other pages. So let's see. Let's try to do that one first. So let's rewrite the file to be static. We're going to use that one instead. So it's static app.config.json. Okay, and I'm going to put that instead for now. So if I refresh the app, that is still running. And I do something else. So it's 404, so we have to change it to be 404. So let's go to I don't have a default page, so it may be a problem. So we could go to the index instead. So 404, and then we're going to rewrite it to be / instead. So any URL below should be go back to index. Let's go for index.html instead. So the file is here. It's in the dist folder that I'm serving. So if I refresh this, so the app is starting up still, and if I use another folder, it's still not working. Okay, so I'm not really sure what we need to do here, because the file is supposed to be taken care of by the application itself, and there may be something that we're missing there. So what's happening there if I do SWA? Verbose output. Okay, so that was not documented. Okay, so let's do verbose. Maybe that's going to help. Okay, so that's after the command. Okay, so that's okay. Now we have 404 here, but it didn't provide anything at the top. So maybe we need to go with a bit more debugging. So let's do silly, maybe silly, verbose silly. Okay, that's good. So we have a CLI route, app location, workflow file. Okay. Certs API run. At least we have a few things. GitHub action configuration was not found under GitHub workflow. Okay, so that maybe it needs to go in that folder. We'll see. Let's try again. That's a lot of logging, but that's expected. So maybe we can see if the file has been used somehow. So we go back to the top, and what do we have here? Index.html, accept range. It looks like, it doesn't look like it's trying to find our file here. So it's supposed to be static app. Is it available there? No, it's not available. It's not there at all. Okay, so maybe we're still missing something. So I'm going to try to find an application on GitHub that actually uses that file. So maybe we can copy what's happening in that file. So the file is supposed to be named static. Oh, maybe I didn't write. It's static web app, not static app. So that's maybe with the right name, it will work. Okay, so I'm going to remove this and try again. Okay, so that's not the right file either. Okay. Let's do it again. So it's a bit more verbose. Ah, there it is. Checking rule. Okay, so matched route, file path. Okay, so it's taken care of now. So that works. That's pretty cool. Okay, so now that means that we can actually go and change a few things here. So if I use the 404 and use something that doesn't work, my guess would be that the location would be redirected to the top. So if I do, no, it does not do. Get 404. So it's trying to do /test, and for some reason the 404 is not getting redirected to this. Okay, but at least the file that file is actually read. So that's pretty cool. So we need to, so now that means that what we wrote at the beginning should be doing something. So the example configuration here, I want to go to the routes here. And let's say use the admin1 for routes. So if I go back here in the file, I need to close the array. And with a comma, is that the right one? No, that's not the right one. Did I do it the right way? I'm not sure. It's probably just that way. Yeah, it's just that way. Okay, so missing member name. Did I think I wrote it right. I probably copy pasted it the wrong way. So we've got routes here and navigation fallback. Okay, so it's probably just a comma too much. Interesting. So let's try it again. Yeah, no, that's the right one. Okay, so let's try it again. See if I refresh that app. If I go to, it was admin, I think. Does admin do something? Admin's supposed to be matching something here. Match route undefined. Okay, so it's not matching the route for /admin/. So maybe it's because it has to be something additional at the end. Is it matching again? No, it's not matching. Okay. So I'm not exactly sure why that is. So maybe it needs to have a file. It's still trying to find test, which is, so it's admin test. So it's trying to find the file, but it's not matching any route that I provided. So either the configuration is not the right one and the documentation is out of date, or it's something else. So we're going to go try to find an app that does that somewhere in the documentation here. So we have Azure static web apps. So maybe there's a sample somewhere. So let's go try to find that file on GitHub. On all GitHub. So we get no code. Okay, I have to be logged in to get the code. So I'm just going to use the other one. So in code, what do we have? We got the static CLI. Okay, so that's the configuration for itself. That's interesting. We got another static web app. So we got still, oh, so we still have SWA config file name. So maybe there's something that shows that one. Okay, so we got the legacy file name here. That's the configuration here, JSON validation. That's not what I'm looking for. Well, that's pretty much documentation about static web apps themselves, so it's not particularly useful. So there's deploying about the Azure deploy. There's a index that a fallback route. Okay, so that one may be interesting. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. What does this one do? So my guess would be that anything goes back to serve.html, index.html. So that may be the right one. What I do not know if the file needs to be refreshed. If I close, maybe I need to close and restart. Is there a file? No workflow file, so it's not there. Oh, SWA, no, it's not that one. Found configuration file. Okay, so that's that one. Okay, so it says the static web app config.json has been used. So it's probably not refreshing the file if we update the document, but no, let's see. So it's not there. So if I do something else, no, it's still going to forest. That's interesting. So for some reason, it's not matching. It's not matching the route. That's annoying, to say the least. So counter and fetch data, map specific routes, single page index HTML. So the fallback route should do, but it's not taken care of for some reason. It's not. It's loaded up, but it's not doing anything. And it should be matching the route because it's the first route that's available, and it's matching for everything up. So so the file should be the right one, but for some reason it's not picking it up. So what we can do is try to look if that works on the server. So let's do that. So I'm going to make a new PR and see if that does a difference. So it's called deep link. I'm going to push that, and we're going to make a PR out of this. That's interesting that you have to accept people to come in. I thought that it was supposed to be joining every time, but it's not. Okay. So I have this. So let's go and see if I can. So I have no. Okay, so it's SkiaSharp Fiddle. You're just gonna make a PR out of this one. Make a PR with deep link. So I probably should be committing something to the branch that would help. Add deep linking. 2 samples. Okay. You were kicked out. Interesting. I didn't think I did anything, so probably something else that was happening there. Okay. So let's try to make a PR, and we'll try to understand if there's something that's different there. So that's about it then. We're just going to let that build, and we're going to take a look at something else in the meantime. Probably just about 10 minutes or something. It should be less than that, but we can probably take a look at that instead. Okay, so one other thing that we could try to do quickly is when you're running the application, there's something that we may want to persist as part of the app. So if you're running the app like this, the bar here is always placed at the middle, the center position. So what we may want to try is to move this and keep the position, basically. So if we move the bar, then we update some setting that we can restore at the beginning of the app. So let's go and let's try to go and do that. I'm just going to move this back to that page so that it works for everyone. So to be able to do this, I think we're going to have to data bind the position of the splitter, because otherwise we won't be able to understand where that comes from. So let's go take a look at what the grid splitter does. Well, that's interesting. I can't open that file. This document is opened by another project. Oh, wow. Okay. If I close the solution and open it again, what does it do? Oh, it's opening now. Okay. So what I want to understand is what is the API of Grid Splitter, and does it provide a position so that we can data bind to it somehow. So we have the splitter foreground position. We don't have that. So maybe it doesn't have that, but maybe we can try to get the actual size of the splitter. So because the grid splitter is actually manipulating, the XAML. So that means that it's manipulating the value of the row definition that's available here. And same thing for the column definition that's available at the top. So we have actually that row definition. That row definition would be for the code editor and the Skia canvas. So that would be, yeah, that's actually those two. Okay, so what we can do is name those. Let's name that one. So that would be the horizontal split, and the other one is going to be the vertical split. So we're going to name it that way. And we're going to try to see if we can do some data binding onto those values. So, so column would be width, and then we're going to data bind this to a property that's called, actually, we probably don't need to name it. We don't need to name it, just data bind it. That would be probably enough. So it will be, so it's a vertical splitter. Vertical split size, we're going to call it that way. And the other one is going to be the height here. We're going to call it horizontal split size. Let's take a look at our build. Is it done? Not yet, still building. Okay, so that's that. So we have to create two properties, one this one and another one. So we have to do two-way binding on it. Has to be two-way, and that's it. Okay, so if we go back here, we can create a property. I'm going to create a full one, and it's going to be a double. It's going to be called vertical split size. I think is what I called it. Vertical split size and horizontal split size. So one of the reason I'm making a full property is because my property has to be, oh, that's interesting. That would be that one, vertical split size, and that one will be horizontal split size. So it's not an integer, it's a double, and horizontal split size. And same thing for this one. So the reason it has to be a full property is that I want to be able to do some setting here. So I need to have access to that property. So to be able to save that value or update that value, let's say when the splitter is moving. So what we can do is let's just write something up and see if it actually shows up when we resize the value. So horizontal split size is going to be horizontal split size. So if we start the app, still building. And so we should be able to see the location of the bar when it's moving. So we can see that it's moved to 0, and Okay, so we can see here that the path is not, it's a grid length. Okay, so we can see here that I didn't use the right type, so we're going to have to adjust for that. So we can see, but we can see that when this is moved, I get updates there. So let's change the type here. It's grid length. Okay, so we got the grid length here, and it's going to be value. So we get the changing of the value. So when we get updated, we get the value of the position of this. So that means that we can store those values when the application is, let's say idle. You move the file, every few seconds. If it has changed, then we save the value. So there it is. And if I move, so not vertically, horizontally. So do I have an updated value? So it may be doing too much. Or maybe there's an exception somewhere. Oh yeah, there was an exception. Okay, so it's saying index was outside of the house. That's something else. Okay, so that's something that we're doing in the, oh, that's the parsing that is not working properly because the URL is not doing the right thing. So we still have an exception that's happening at the beginning of the app. So that is interesting. But that's not what I was expecting. So this is not showing up. So it's in the set. Maybe do the value here. So what's happening with our build? Okay, the build has finished. So let's take a look at the application that was published. So it was build, and then there's a deploy stage, and the deploy stage is giving up an URL here. So what's happening with that one? So if I put something else at the end, I got two apps running at the same time. It's interesting. Still 404. Okay, so it's not working at all. So for some reason, the configuration file is not rewriting the URL at the end, and we're probably going to be needing to do some discovery there because it's supposed to be doing something right. So it's not. Okay. So we get that. Oh, there it is. We have the position. So vertical split size. We can see all the locations for that one. It's not doing anything for the vertical one. For the horizontal one, for some reason. Did I do something incorrect there? Maybe it's not changing that one. Oh, it's height. It's not height, sorry. It's a row has height, it's not width. So that's why it's not doing anything. So there we go. So that's one of the two reasons. So width and height, so that we can set it. And then what we can do is take those values and put them as part of, let's say, we can take those values and and store them at in a regular interval. So let's say we can actually remove those. It's not useful anymore. And we can put some kind of a timer, for instance. So let's do, so we got a dispatcher timer. And so there are multiple ways to do that. We can actually have a timer that runs, let's say, every 10 seconds and then save the value. That's interesting, but it still has a timer that runs for nothing. But what we could do is have a timer that runs or that gets reset every time there's a change to that value. So, so let's say, let's see, I don't recall exactly what's on dispatcher timer. You can go take a look at the documentation for that one. So we got to start and stop an interval. So we could stop, then start it again if the timer needs to run. Yeah, we could try to do that. Okay, so let's do this. We're going to make a timer there. So let's call it dispatcher timer, and it's going to be settings, save timer. then what we can do is start the timer. So if not enabled, actually we need to stop and start it anyways. So because the idea is that we want to just have the timer just stop. So this is the kind of things that I would do in using reactive extensions. It's probably not very useful just for now, but it's something that we may do next week to try this one out. So I'm gonna stop the timer and start it again. And so that if it's doing something, if the timer is still doing something, we're going to stop it and start it again at every change. And if nothing happens, then we're going to be saving the values at the end. So the timer is done that way, and we need to hook onto the timer. So it's going to be the interval. And the property type is a type span. So let's go for a time span for, let's say, 5 seconds. And we also have to add a tick. And for that one, it's going to be on unsave timer tick. Create the method for this, and then we're going to be using all the we're going to get the Uno updates there. So it's going to be storage. So I see there was a question on YouTube. So how high is improving support for Linux for you guys? I tried simple prototype using Uno and ran into a lot of issues with not implemented Uno and not implemented in Uno exceptions. So it really depends on what people are asking for. So if you're running into not implemented exceptions, let us know what you're running into. It really depends on what our clients are asking for. So if you open an issue, we can prioritize and see if it matches with our own backlog. And but if we don't know about what you're trying to do, then it's difficult to help you there. So let us know. How to fix animating gradient brush in WebAssembly and Android. Did you open an issue about that one? I don't know. If you have try to open an issue about this, with the repro sample, try to do a very small sample about animating a gradient brush and see if something is not working there. So we have application data, and then we have current, and then we can go to local settings. And so in the local settings, we're going to get for our two values. So in the local settings, I think we can get, so this this local settings is it's a dictionary. So we can do try get value. Actually, we're going to save the value there. So it's going to be called, so we had two values there. We have the vertical split size and horizontal split size. So we're going to call that a key. Going to make it a constant. So we're going to change that afterwards, and it's going to be the vertical split size here. Same thing for this. Horizontal split size. Oop, there it is. And then we can change that at the top. So that would be, I don't know where that one went. Okay, so that's an integer, not exactly what I want. So it's going to be a constant. It's going to be called, we're going to call it the name of the property. Same thing for the horizontal. there. And with that, we should be good. So it's not actually that. I think it's values or containers. I never remember. It's values. Okay, so you have to go to values, not container that way. Okay, so that's how to save the values. And now we have to restore those values. And the best way to do that would be to be in the unnavigated to here that we had. So we can change and read those value back. So you can do restore the splitter position. Visual Studio is playing tricks on me again. Wow. That's pretty slow. Maybe because of this at the top. Yeah, it's trying to. I gonna try for the next stream is to change this. I think a lot of people have been asking for that one, but it's probably just waiting for too many things there. So, okay, so let's do this. Let's add that. Okay. I'm just going to close Visual Studio again because it's not doing what it should be doing. So let's try again. So maybe the new 64-bit version that was announced yesterday is going to change something up with all this. One can hope. Okay, so what I want to do is get the value there. So if I have so I got try get value here, so I'm gonna get the key, and it's going to be value. Let's do raw vertical split size key. That's a new value, and it has to be a double. So I'm going to call that there. So we get this, and so that's that one. And then we're going to set the vertical split size directly to the vertical split size that we got here. So maybe not the best name there. I'm going to call it setting so it doesn't conflict with the other one. And we're going to do the same thing for the other one. So it's the horizontal split size. And set that to the horizontal split size. There. Okay, so we read the setting. So that would be good. So let's try it and see. So there's no logging, but I'm just gonna trust that that it did the right thing and that it's gonna restore the values properly. So let's see what that does. And I see that I missed. We have to stop the timer in save timer tick. Otherwise, it's gonna keep running every time there's every time we've moved the value to the right location. So that's what it is. So let's say I'm doing it that way. So very small, well, no, let's say very large here and very large there. So it should be saving the value. So one way to see it, if it worked properly. Type grid length is not supported. Okay, so it doesn't work, but we can see that the timer did actually do something the right way. So it's not saving the grid length properly. So what we're going to do is we're going to change that to not saving the grid length directly. We're going to use dot value because that's the actual double that we need to change. And interestingly, here, this is double, but the vertical split size is going to change this as a value. So there's an implicit cast between the two. But to be done right, to be done properly, we're going to use from pixels instead and do it that way. Yeah, I'm seeing the comments, but I'm yeah, I'm seeing the comments, but it's a bit delay. I'm looking on Twitch, so I'm probably gonna have to change that to see the comments better. You created a page in the questions, how to fix the library. You have to create a very you have to create a sample that does only that and post it as an issue, not as a question. Okay, so I moved the position. So let's do it that way. So if we wait a few seconds, then that means we can go take a look in the application here, and we should be seeing this as a there it is. Okay, so we can see here that the values have been changed. So they're stored as local storage here, and we get 2 doubles. And if I move it, does it update right away? I guess it should at some point. I don't know if it has to. Oh, it has to be refreshed. Okay. So it sets the value. So if I put it that way, and if I refresh the page, does it get the values properly? So it doesn't look like it. So if I do this and this again, I refresh the values. Okay, 721. Okay, so if I do this again, does it get updated? No, it does not. Okay, so the position is still sticking at the top. It could be because of the fact that the position here is not read properly. That could be. So it may be happening because on navigated to is not done the right place. So we're going to move this and put it back to a different location. We're going to put it on in loaded, for instance, for now, to see if that fixes the issue. So we're going to do on page loaded here. We're going to call the restore split position for now. And we're going to see if that changes something up. Okay, so still get the position. If I move it again, this is still moving. So I get 2 different values there after a few seconds. Okay, it got updated. And if I refresh, will it place the bars at the right size? No, it does not. Okay, so it probably means that either the bindings are not executed properly or the values are not read properly. It could be. Maybe this is not working properly. So we can go take a look at the values here. We got the values here. And after this, it should be fine. So we're going to do this. Restored vertical split size, and that one would be restore horizontal split size. There we go. So that we could be able to use the debugger because it wasn't working before, but now it may be working a bit better. So we should be seeing some restore if it worked properly. Restored. Oh, okay. So we're seeing the grid length. That's interesting. So that may not be what I wanted. So we're going to be changing this to be dot value instead. And so it actually restored the values, but for some reason it looks like it was not taken into account. So it may be because the splitter are resetting the positions. That could be. Because because of min height, min width, and min height, or maybe it's read somewhere else. It's read by the splitter and it positions it before. That could be. Let's see. It may be because the location is changed afterwards. So the grid splitter, it has resize direction, resize behavior, element, parent level, manipulation delta. Okay, it doesn't have anything that says it shouldn't do anything with the value. So maybe we have to set it after the control has been loaded, but we're gonna see where that goes. I'm just gonna put back the actual values there so we can see when it changed. So changed once, changed twice. So horizontal here. So it may be that when we set the splitter positions, then the grid splitter change it afterwards for some other reason, because the values that it read were not at the right place. It could be something like that. So I'm going to try to find that out. So if we search for vertical split, so we have the changed here. Does it happen somewhere else? So it's only placed once. So the location is right. So it's the same value. I probably pasted something the wrong way there. Horizontal, vertical. Am I calling the same twice? That could be horizontal, vertical. I'm calling vertical twice, so that may not be the right thing to do. Okay, so let's change that. Horizontal split key. That horizontal, okay. That would be vertical, horizontal. No, that one. Oh, it's vertical as well here, so I didn't change that one there. So I have to change it at 2 locations. Okay, let's try again. So that may be one of the reasons why it didn't work, because the position was not restored properly. So it was the same value twice. Okay, let's see now. So the value are set to, well, same value because it was written the same way before. So now I'm moving this up. So it's should be 380, 425. Okay, so it didn't restore again, but do I have a value? Okay, so it's setting the values properly, but for some reason it's not setting the right location. So it may be there's something else that we need to set. It could be that the splitter is actually moving both values there. So for instance, it's moving both row definitions, so not just the first one. We're probably going to have to troubleshoot that one. So we're going to take a look at that next week, trying to understand how the splitter is doing its work, so we can actually change the location, maybe because the role definition is doing it the wrong way. So next week is we're going to take a look at why the file for a static web app here is not handling the routes properly. So that's one of the things that didn't work today. And because it seems to be taken into account, but it's not used by the server for some reason. And we're going to take a look again at the column definition, trying to understand why the restored value for this is not taken into account by the row definition. So that will be interesting to look out for. My assumption would be that the row definition is not the right one. So until then, I'll be seeing you next week. And if you have any bugs or anything else, let us know. Open issues with repros, and we can take a look. So happy coding and see you next week. Bye-bye.